Hey there, this is Cassidy, and you are listening to Cassidy is Alive. This week, we are exploring the SCP Foundation, the single greatest work of collaborative fiction in history, and I doubt it will ever be topped. We're going to be learning all about that, but also this week, I am going to talk about a very deep, personal, and emotional topic, and that is how I found out that something, we'll say, was amiss when it came to my gender. It is a really, really packed show this week. So, without further ado, here's Floating Roach, and let's get into it.
We are dead! So we're gone! The people are the people that you've ever seen!
Oh hey! There she is. There's Cassidy, the one who is alive. Episode 14 today. Well, shit. 14 is actually my favorite number. I know. It is very childish to have a favorite number, but mine is the number 14, regardless. You know, as a child, I rationalized that 14 was lucky. It's a lucky number by virtue of 13 being unlucky, and of course, 14 is one greater. Since then, it has persisted as my favorite number. And now, here you and I are, at episode number 14 of this shitty little podcast. But wait, episode 14? But last week was 12. Whatever happened to 13? That, my friends, was a few days ago. I reviewed AEW Revolution, so go check that out. At the end of May, I will be doing the same thing for the next AEW pay-per-view, Double or Nothing. So if you love the pro wrestling content, then you get an extra podcast every 3 months. Maybe more, should I review something else. And if you do not love the pro wrestling babble, then skip that podcast, and I will still be here on the Victorian Thursday night. Hooray! But in all seriousness, if you did watch the Revolution review, or the 2 clips I posted of the Revolution review, I do very much appreciate it. And I love your beautiful face. I was so looking forward to putting the review together. Last show that I reviewed was WWE's Royal Rumble, the one WWE show that I watch every year. And it was so fucking negative. I'm happier, much happier, to review something that I enjoy. Something that I generally enjoy. Revolution was a rare miss. Kind of a really, really awful AEW show. And of course, that's my opinion. I generally like AEW. There are people that don't like AEW, and they would argue, oh, every show's awful. To those people, I say, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean. I'm talking about preference. Shut up, you fucking idiots. Anyway, so believe it or not, I do not enjoy voicing that negativity. I almost said I do. I don't enjoy voicing that negativity on things that I don't like. I really don't. Truth be told, this bitch right here is extremely emotionally invested in professional wrestling as a sheer concept, that it is extremely difficult to not react emotionally. I am what is called a smart mark. You see, in pro wrestling terminology, I should say, a mark is one that either buys the legitimacy of pro wrestling, like outright believes it's real. There aren't too many of them left. Couple of stragglers, I suppose, but a mark is either somebody that buys the legitimacy of pro wrestling or acknowledges that it is illegitimate, yet still reacts as if it were an authentic sport. And, of course, I mean, it isn't authentic combat at all. The term smart mark, however, it was coined by the late Brian Pillman, this guy. It describes somebody smart to the business who reacts emotionally to its worked nature. So, for example, say a storyline doesn't make sense, or say a bad wrestler is pushed in favor of a much better wrestler. Of course, all relative to perspective. Or let's say AEW sign a total piece of shit named Ethan Page. That kind of thing. That's a smart mark. I'm a smart mark. But that's enough pre-game banter. Who gives a shit? It is time to get into the show proper, because we've got a lot to get through today. And first of all, as with the last couple of weeks, and for the foreseeable future, let me tell you about my week.
All of you listen up! There was 1 week ago, 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 1 week ago. All of you listen up! There was 1 week ago, 1 week ago, 1 week ago, 1 week ago, 1 week ago.
I really need to get a better song for this segment. But regardless, thanks again, Tony. Tony Schiavone, everybody. Yay! Okay, so in contrast to last week, I was fairly productive today. This week. I was fairly productive this week, I mean. Fuck. Oh well. I was fairly productive this week. Oh my god. What a great start, hey? This week, I saw my best friend in the whole world, and she plucked my eyebrows. I still can't do it myself. Naturally, I don't really have very bushy eyebrows, naturally. Kind of fortunate in that regard, they're just messy. We didn't go crazy with them at all, just to clean up and thinning them out. I don't know how prettier they are in reality, but I certainly feel pretty. I like having eyebrows that are cool. A boost to my fucking confidence and to my self-image, both of which have been fairly low these past few weeks. So this was a pick-me-up that I really needed. Similar to that though, actually, two things similar. I have inquired, this is just quickly, I've made my telephone inquiry, and I have found the place where I will have all of that nasty, icky, gross, manly facial hair removed by lasers. More updates to follow. The other thing, I finally got my hair cut. A trim, not a major difference yet, but it is so much thinner and nicer. My hair does that real thick, masculine kind of mop thing, and I fucking hate it. But we have got that under control. The next step is changing my hair's color. I'm feeling a kind of sandy, blonde, light brown. I'd love a pretty basic blonde. Just a basic bitch blonde. But it is not my color. I have naturally dark brown hair. Almost black. Like about as close. It's like one shade away from black. Realistically. With a kind of light olive tanned complexion. It just doesn't work. Straight blonde just sadly wouldn't work for me. I have a friend from high school. We'll just call her Jay. And I have always loved her hair. I have always been envious of her hair. It's so fucking pretty. This really nice blonde, but it's not like blonde, like it's kind of just a little bit sandy, just a little, like, it's like if you take the lightest possible brown and then get blonde and put a step between those two. I'm not good with colors, obviously. It's really great. And if I could, not even sorry about this girl, I would steal it. That's what I would need. That's what I would need. But what I really need is a new hair color. People love the phrase, new year, new me. Or something like that. I don't know. You know what I'm saying. The statement is as true as can be for your girl, Cassidy. So why not try a new hair color? I think that would be good. A nice, lighter color. I'm sick of this dark hair. Also this week, and prior to my haircut, I took this photo. And I think that I look very cute here. I was told that I look very cute here. Dysphoria makes it so I'm not happy with, nor can I so much as tolerate photos of myself. But I really like this one. I really like this one. We're gonna, quickly, Stardom had their big show at Budokan Hall on the 3rd of March. It was great. Main event was outstanding. But Yoshiko versus my girl / probably my second favorite wrestler in the world right now, Mayu Iwatani, 15 minutes of Joshi heaven. This was every bit Manami Toyota versus Aja Kong. Legendary Joshi rivalry. 5 stars. This is my second favorite match of 2021 thus far. Brilliant. Just fucking great. Really good. But we're gonna end the weekly catch-up with something special. Somebody asked me a question, and they want me to answer it on the podcast. It's not really a viewer question. I don't really have viewers. But it's from a friend. And she told me to answer it on the podcast. Probably to help me fill airtime. I don't need it this week. Whatever. So, we'll just call her, Ty. Because she's very pretty. Like Ty Conti. So, Ty, she asks, when did you realize that you were trans? This is a great question. And, to be honest, I have not yet explained this. At least not on the podcast. At least not to anyone but my best friend and my psychologist. I don't think I've explained this to anybody else. You're gonna hear it here. To preface, and at the risk of coming off as a little pretentious, I'm going to reword this question. Personally, I use the term trans or transgender to denote the state of transition. Now, there are a number of ways that these words are defined. People define them in different ways. That's just typically how I have used them. So, I guess I realized that I was trans when I began transition. The question that I'm going to answer, however, when did Cassidy become aware of a discrepancy between her sex and gender? And you'll forgive me, because there is no easy, quick answer to this. We will start by looking back in hindsight, through which I can say that something was kind of always amiss. Throughout my life, there was nothing typically male that I particularly enjoyed, and out of fear of mostly a hyper-masculine stepfather, there were typically female things, quote-unquote, on both male and female there, that I would intentionally avoid. For instance, for as long as memory doth serve, I wanted long, flowing, pretty, blonde hair. Instead, I would ask for it to be cut short, spiked with gel, and this would carry over well into my adult years as I neglected my hair. I would shave it bald. Ugh. This is just one example of me repressing or more accurately, attempting to repress these issues of gender instead of confronting them. Now, we'll travel back in time. I would have been 7 or 8 in early primary school when I fully understood the difference between male and female. Nothing exactly prompted this, it just took me that long to really comprehend sex. Sex meaning biological sex, not having sex. I didn't understand that for a few years yet. You see, I didn't understand that, at that time at least, I was a boy. It just didn't compute. I did kind of get that, boys had penises, girls have vaginas, but to memory, I was still very confused by this knowledge. So in early primary school, as more of these differences became clear, interacting with a lot of other people, you start to notice, oh, this is a boy, this is a girl, a lot of you are going to notice that a lot earlier. As I said, it took me a little while. I was very confused about the whole thing. I had a better understanding of sex as I was getting older. As I said, 7 and 8, around there, and the confusion only grew stronger. I had male physical qualities. I had a dick. And everything else, I quickly realized, was more characteristic of girls. The girls that I went to school with. I looked more like the boys, but I guess I kind of just felt more like the girls. In my own mind, by age 10, at the absolute latest, I thought of myself as a girl. This, for many years, was physically beaten out of me by my mother and by her husband. This is just, you're gonna have to bear with me. I made the mistake of telling my mother that I was a girl. And because of that, I kept it inside for at least 17 years. In that time, my self-image, I'm sorry. Okay, so, the years following entering puberty, male puberty, my body obviously began to change. Up to that point, you're a child, you have nondescript features. Now, suddenly, I'm growing hair on my face and around my body. It made me feel depressed. My shoulders grew broader. My voice became deeper. Made me feel so fucking bad. My jawline and chin developed. Looking in the mirror became fucking torturous. Because now, things most certainly did not visually align. They were more askew up to that point. As I entered male puberty, they did not align at all. Now, I looked like a boy. I definitely looked like a boy. And I was starting to look like a man. The only way I can describe the feeling is unnatural. It didn't feel natural. For a time as a teenager, I had this strange, I guess, phantom limb complex. It's the best way to describe it. Honestly, it's the best way to describe it. It wasn't that I felt like I should have developed breasts, though that is true as well. It's like I could physically feel them growing off of my body, as if I had them. I think that stems from my dreams. This is another important thing to talk about. I should have mentioned this earlier. In my dreams, as far back as I remember, I have always been female in my dreams. That's it. I'm just a woman in my dreams. I guess I was a girl when I was little, but I've just always been just female in my dreams. Always. So, you can imagine, you wake up in the morning, you're 13 years old, you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror as you have a shower, and you see your naked body looking back in the mirror. And it does not match that internalized image of self. It does not match who you are as you were asleep. You wake up, when you wake up, everything's a haze in the morning. You're still sort of half in that dream. You go into the bathroom and that's the first thing you really see. The first thing that really you focus on in the morning is your naked body, and it does not match. You get in the shower and you proceed to wash your body, every inch of it. And as your hands are traveling up every last bit of your body, it's just not your body. I guess... I'm sorry. I guess that I first realized that something wasn't right when I was at that age. 11, 12... the uncertainty came before that. But at that point, I definitely knew that there was something wrong. I didn't know what. I didn't have the word for it. I knew nothing of what dysphoria was, of transgenderism. I knew nothing of that. I just knew that there was something wrong. And like I said, it took me, at that point, over 15 years to finally confront the issue. After so much pain, after just aggravating my MDD, there were a few suicide attempts. I would regularly cut myself until my early 20s. Then I swapped that for alcohol abuse, back to cutting, and was eventually prescribed a heavy antipsychotic in an attempt to medically suppress dysphoria. The only reason I'm not going to name that antipsychotic is because I don't want somebody else who may or may not be listening to this, who's experiencing dysphoria, to decide, hey, that'd be a good idea to take that. No, it's not. It's not a fucking good idea. But the antipsychotic works. It does. Until the dose increases. Then it increases again. And again. And again. And again. Because the dysphoria fights through. It fights through. It's like a cancer. Your body will try... Like with cancer, your body, your white blood cells, your immune system tries to fight it off. But the cancer always pulls through and it's stronger. It's just, it's an analogy for how the dysphoria works when treated with medicine. All the while, as this is happening, I play pretend. I try to project what I believe is a masculine image. Until 2020, last year, as of the time of recording, I had a full face, unkempt beard. Ugh. I always hated it. I compensated so fucking much. It actually took a global pandemic for me to stop taking my prescribed pills and to choose life. For my entire adult life, I lived like I was dead. Because ultimately, I was certain that my fate was suicide. I was just too afraid of failure to follow through an attempt to the end. But I chose life. And I choose life. It is not easy. Really, this whole living life thing isn't easy. I still struggle with my reflection all the time. Among other countless things. But I am so fucking happy. In general. I am living life as myself, finally. Maybe not to its fullest yet. I still have major depressive disorder. I need to work through. I still obviously have a long way to go with transition. But I'm living my life as myself. Cassidy is alive. And I hope, my friend, what did I call you? Ty, that long-winded answer was sufficient. For future reference, minute number of listeners, I will answer pretty much any question, should they be asked. So feel free. I mean, I'll tell you if I don't want to answer it, if I'm uncomfortable, but I'll pretty much answer anything. So if you want to, go ahead. I don't expect it, but hell, if you want to, go ahead. For now, though, we're going to press on. That is the end of the weekly update. By the way, we are going to get into this SCP shit right. Actually, wait, no. I was going to say right, then play the transition sound effect, and then come back from that saying now. So it would be like, we're going to start this SCP shit right now. But then I realized that SCP bit has already been recorded, and I don't start off by saying right. So, yeah. Fuck it. Fuck it. Here we go. The SCP Foundation. Secure, contain, protect. The SCP Foundation for over 13 years now has existed as the benchmark for large-scale collaborative fiction, only really able to do so in this current internet age. But what is the SCP Foundation? How did it start, and why is it so damn popular? Really, it is mainstream at this point, basically. There is a great down the rabbit hole on the subject. It is part of internet culture. Do watch that down the rabbit hole, though, after this podcast, of course. So, before diving into the content, let's learn or otherwise refresh ourselves on what this whole thing is. scpwiki.com is the URL for the website, so do visit that link after you've listened to this. The SCP Foundation is a fictitious organization that locates and contains anomalous entities referred to as SCPs. These can range from living beings to worldly locales to seemingly inanimate objects. Thematically, they are all creepy. It's kind of a creepypasta. I think genre-wise, it's definitely horror, but there are certain strong science fiction and fantasy elements in there too. This is all licensed under Creative Commons. It is a community-based venture. But if you're, just a competent writer, you can write your own. It may not get published, but you can write your own. You can put it in. It's cool. It's really good. So, where did it all begin? Where else? And where do you think? On 4chan. On the X board. That's the paranormal board. In 2007, an anonymous poster introduced us to SCP-173. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I will tell you about 173 and some other great SCPs. But what we need to know first is that the original SCP post on the X board proved to be very popular. It spawned imitators, and soon it spawned a full fucking website to catalog them. That is the website I mentioned before. This one, the SCP Wiki. Keeping with the spirit of the 4chan post that started it all, the SCP Foundation would be non-profit, open source, and community-based. I love it. A very punk rock mentality. Fuck yes. Now we are going to read SCP-173. Let me just pull this up here. Here's the picture. This is SCP-173 in containment. So, there's one thing we have to go through first. These all have classes, object classes. This one in particular is of the Euclid class. They don't matter. They basically just denote... Well, I suppose they do matter, but for the purposes of today, they don't really matter. What they do is they basically just rank the risk that these pose to people, like the threat that these things pose to the general population. So the first part is special containment procedures. So how you contain this thing. Item SCP-173 is to be kept in a locked container at all times. When personnel must enter SCP-173's container, no fewer than 3 may enter at any time. The door is to be relocked behind them. At all times, 2 persons must maintain direct eye contact with SCP-173 until all personnel have vacated and relocked the container. Next up is the description. Now we're going to learn about this thing. Moved to Site 19 in 1993, origin as of yet unknown. It is constructed from concrete and rebar with traces of Krylon brand spray paint. SCP-173 is animate and extremely hostile. The object cannot move while within direct line of sight. Line of sight must not be broken at any time with SCP-173. Personnel assigned to enter container are instructed to alert one another before blinking. Object is reported to attack by snapping the neck at the base of the skull or by strangulation. In the event of an attack, personnel are to observe Class 4 hazardous object containment procedures. Personnel report sound of scraping stone originating from within the container when no one is present inside. This is considered normal, and any change in this behavior should be reported to the acting HMCL supervisor on duty. The reddish-brown substance on the floor is a combination of feces and blood. Origin of these materials is unknown. The enclosure must be cleaned on a bi-weekly basis. Now that we have a taste for what this is, we are going to read a few more of my favorite SCPs. After the song of the week. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and you're still with me. These are really great. It's fucking phenomenal reads. So I hope that this serves as an introduction to some of you who may not have heard of SCP into this. But before we get into more of them, this week is the song, obviously. This week, we have waited long enough. You've all waited long enough. From their 2019 LP, Wasted Energy, this is the fabled Press Club. This incredible track is called I'm in Hell. I hope you love it as much as I do. More SCPs after this.
I'm in hell, getting wasted with my memories of you. Not sitting well, I've been tasting it and it makes me sick. I wasn't wasted. In the morning I could see your face had changed. I can't escape it, I keep tasting it and it makes me sick. And no, I'm not alright yet, and no, I'm not alright yet. Etching into my brain, taking my life away. There's no way, no, I'll get it back again. I'll keep my feet in the gutter. No way, no, I'll get it back again. I'll keep my feet in the gutter. You're pretty wild, taking time away from work because of you. It's been a while, I'm still tasting it and it makes me sick. And no, I'm not alright yet, and no, I'm not alright yet. Etching into my brain, taking my life away. There's no way, no, I'll get it back again. I'll keep my feet in the gutter. No way, no, I'll get it back again. I'll keep my feet in the gutter. Can't get your weight off my chest, can't get you out of my skin. Can't feel the sheet on this bed, can't get away from it. Can't get you out of my head, can't get you out of my head, can't get you out of my head. There's no way, no, I'll get it back again. I'll keep my feet in the gutter. No way, no, I'll get it back again. I'll keep my feet in the gutter. Can't get you out of my head, can't get you out of my head, can't get you out of my head, can't get you out of my head.
Can you believe what's possible these days? Conversations through your computer, worlds of information one click away. All the things you find only on the world's most popular internet online service, now more affordable than ever. It's like living in the future. The future Now available on America Online.
バナナと言ったらどうだ強引ですが決めました君や彼女を元気づけたくてバナナは生えてる I am Goldman
Hi, I'm Boss Rutan. Cartoon Network and I want you to help end bullying.
Hey, new kid.
Being a bully is unacceptable. Being the victim, not cool either.
Stop, man. You move.
But getting help,
Mr. S, finish up outside. Come on, what's going on?
that's the right thing to do.
Come on, stop.
If you're standing by,
All right.
speak up.
Yeah.
You can make a difference.
What's really happened to you? You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Together, we can end bullying. Stop bullying, speak up. For more info, go to stopbullying.speakup.com.
We are back. We're gonna go through some more of these. Alrighty, this one's one of my absolute favorite. This one might actually be my absolute favorite. SCP-106. We're not gonna go through the entirety of the special containment procedures. There's a lot to go through, so there's 2 paragraphs I'm gonna read from this. SCP-106 is to be contained in a sealed container comprised of lead-lined steel. The container will be sealed with 40 layers of identical material, each layer separated by no less than 36 centimeters of empty space. Support struts between layers are to be randomly spaced. Container is to remain suspended no less than 60 centimeters away from any surface by electromagnetic supports. Actually, come to think of it, that's it. We only have to read that 1 paragraph. Very good introduction to this description. The description: SCP-106 appears to be an elderly humanoid with a general appearance of advanced decomposition. This appearance may vary, but the rotting quality observed in all forms. The rotting quality is observed in all forms. I completely missed that word. SCP-106 is not exceptionally agile and will remain motionless for days at a time, waiting for prey. SCP-106 is also capable of scaling any vertical surface and can remain suspended upside down indefinitely. When attacking, SCP-106 will attempt to incapacitate prey by damaging major organs, muscle groups, or tendons, then pull disabled prey into its pocket dimension. SCP-106 appears to prefer human prey items in the 10 to 25 years of age bracket. SCP-106 causes a corrosion effect in all solid matter it touches, engaging a physical breakdown in materials several seconds after contact. This is observed as rusting, rotting, and cracking of materials and the creation of a black, mucus-like substance, similar to the material coating SCP-106. This effect is particularly detrimental to living tissues and is assumed to be a pre-digestion action. Corrosion continues for 6 hours after contact, after which the effect appears to, quote, burn out. Yeah. SCP-106 is capable of passing through solid matter, leaving behind a large patch of its corrosive mucus. SCP-106 is able to vanish inside solid matter, entering what is assumed to be a form of pocket dimension. It is then able to exit this dimension from any point connected to its initial entry point. Examples: entering the inner wall of a room and exiting the outer wall, entering a wall and exiting from the ceiling. It is unknown if this is the point of origin for SCP-106 or a simple lair created by SCP-106. Limited observation of this pocket dimension has shown it to be comprised mostly of halls and rooms with data expunged entry. This activity can continue for days, with some subjected individuals being released for the express purpose of hunting, recapture, and data expunged. Very creepy one, that one. I absolutely love it. We're moving on to the next one here. SCP-662. This one's object class is safe, meaning it doesn't pose much of a threat. SCP-662 should be kept in its red velvet lined case and stored in high-value storage locker 23C located at Data Expunged, when not being utilized for testing or other appropriate activities. The item itself is safe to handle and poses no known threats of any kind though the effects generated could be considered highly valuable and variably powerful depending upon how the SCP is used. Those actually weren't pronunciation mistakes, they're grammatical mistakes in this article. Description: SCP-662 is a small silver handbell, 4 centimeters tall and 2 centimeters in circumference. The bell is missing its ringer. Within the inside of the bell, an inscription has been etched into the silver, reading "Forever Mine, SJW." Initials. The bell is susceptible to damage. However, given its safe nature, destruction has been deemed unnecessary. As it is made of very pure silver, it requires regular polishing to remain without tarnish. When the bell is shaken, as if to ring it, a soft chime can be heard, although this chime does not come from the bell. A short, well-dressed Caucasian butler of self-proclaimed British heritage calling himself Mr. Deeds will appear from the nearest area within line of sight, not within line of sight, usually from around a corner. Mr. Deeds will address the ringer of the bell by their appropriate title and last name and ask what it is they desire. His knowledge of individuals' last names and titles is a mystery, and he himself will purport. Most reasonable requests given to Mr. Deeds will result in satisfaction. However, there are limits to what he can do. He is unable to produce very complex items such as sports cars, luxury homes, or personal jets. If he is allowed to leave line of sight and return, he is able to produce smaller, less complex items such as a ham sandwich, a glass of iced tea, or even more luxurious items like caviar or a brick of gold. A list of notable items the butler has thus far been able to provide to those who ring the bell may be found in amendum blah blah blah, who cares. Mr. Deeds will also perform menial tasks, such as washing vehicles, preparing food, and cleaning bathrooms. If a request is deemed unreasonable or impossible by the butler, he will kindly tell the ringer so, and offer an alternative if one may be had. The butler is not immune to ill actions taken against him while in sight. He has been killed or injured in multiple tests, and will remain either dead or injured until he is out of sight. Upon return with ring of the bell, all previous injuries will have vanished, and he will be groomed and well dressed in his uniform and ready for the next order. A more detailed explanation of the jobs he performs and the limits to which his powers may be put, blah 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 blah. We're not going to get into that. We're just going to continue here. Test logs relating to his ability to heal himself and those of the properties of the bell may be assessed by any level 2 or higher personnel. All attempts to catch Mr. Deeds disappearing has failed, as equipment will either fail or he will find a suitable unobserved spot. Now we're going to look at some items. These are the items and tasks requested and the results for them. Nearly any conceivable kind of sandwich, human flesh has been requested as lunch meat and politely denied. Beverages, also of nearly any kind. As with sandwich meat, human blood has been requested and denied. Pig blood, however, was served promptly, still warm. A brick of 99.98% pure gold. Mr. Deeds produced a brick of 99.14% pure gold and apologized for being unable to provide the requested purity. A brick of 99.24% silver. A nuclear bomb, which was politely denied. A hand grenade of modern US military grade, which performed as expected in testing. A blue 1963 Corvette convertible, politely denied. The board game Monopoly, which Mr. Deeds won on the first playthrough. A Fabergé egg, which was politely denied. SCP, data expunged, politely denied. a bouquet of freshly picked roses, a bouquet of wild, I cannot pronounce that word, it's an unknown type of flower, which was politely denied. These are the tasks that were requested of Mr. Deeds. Cleaning of Dr. Mirth's car, performed to near perfection. Washing of dishes accumulated from days' worth of meals from the cafeteria on level data expunged of data expunged, performed to much higher standards than usual. Trimming of Dr. Mirth's hair, performed, but it turns out that Mr. Deeds is not in fact a very good barber. Washing of Dr. Mirth's laundry, which was performed, and the clothing found to fit better in Dr. Mirth's estimation. Assassination of Osama bin Laden, politely denied. Mr. Deeds claimed bin Laden was too well guarded and entrenched, but could not or would not give further details. Assassination of D-class individual a room over, performed with vicious precision using a buck knife to the throat. Further tests with regards to Dr. Mirth's personal effects are to be forbidden unless approved by one level 05 overseer. You've been warned, Dr. Mirth. That is SCP-662. We're not going to get into the interview logs on this, but I think that one is really, really, really creative. Very fucking creative. Moving on to the next one. This is SCP-055. The object class for this is Keter, which is the most dangerous, poses a threat to all of humanity. Alrighty. Special containment procedures. The object is to be kept within a 5x5 by 2.5 meter square room constructed of cement with a Fabergé cage? I'm not sure what that is. With a Fabergé cage surrounding the cement walls. Access is via a heavy containment door measuring 2 by 2.5 meters constructed on bearings to ensure door closes and locks automatically unless held open deliberately. Security guards are not to be outposted outside of SCP-055's room. It is further advised that all personnel maintaining or studying other SCP objects in the vicinity try to maintain a distance of at least 50 meters from the geometric center of the room, as long as this is reasonably practical. The description. SCP-055 is a self-keeping secret, or anti-meme. Information about SCP-055's physical appearance, as well as its nature, behavior, and origins, is self-classifying. To clarify, how Site-19 originally acquired SCP-055 is unknown. When SCP-055 was obtained and by whom is unknown. SCP-055's physical appearance is unknown. It is not indescribable or invisible. Individuals are perfectly capable of entering SCP-055's container and observing it, taking mental or written notes, making sketches, taking photographs, or even making audio-video recordings. An extensive log of such observations is on file. However, information about SCP-055's physical appearance leaks out of human mind soon after an observation. Individuals tasked with describing SCP-055 afterwards find their minds wandering and less interested in the task. Individuals tasked with sketching a copy of a photograph of SCP-055 are unable to remember what the photograph looks like, as are researchers overseeing these tests. Security personnel who have observed SCP-055 via closed-circuit television cameras emerge after a full shift exhausted and effectively amnesiac about the events of the previous hours. Who authorized the construction of SCP-055's containment room, why it was constructed in this way, or what the purpose of the described containment procedures may be are all unknown. SCP-055's container being easily accessible, all personnel at Site-19 claim no knowledge of SCP-555's existence when challenged. All of these facts are periodically rediscovered, usually by chance readers of this file causing a great deal of alarm. This state of concern lasts minutes at most, before the matter is simply forgotten about. A great deal of scientific data has been recorded from SCP-055, but cannot be studied. At least one attempt has been made to destroy SCP-055, or possibly move it from its containment site at Site 19 to another site, meeting failure for reasons unknown. SCP-555 may present a major physical threat, and indeed may have killed many hundreds of personnel, and we would not know it. Certainly, it presents a gigantic memetic/mental threat, hence its Keter classification. So, no one knows what the fuck this thing is. You just simply forget it ever existed. That is awesome. Like, it's fucking awesome. There is a alien in Doctor Who. I believe this was nearing the end of the Paul Smith run. Was his name Paul Smith? Matt Smith. Paul Smith, I'm an idiot. Nearing the end of the Matt Smith run on Doctor Who, there was an alien similar to this. This SCP actually predates that alien in Doctor Who by several years. Because you might have thought with the first one, SCP-173 that we went through, that's a little like the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who, and that's true. I think it was influenced by the Weeping Angels. This one appears to be the other way around, which is, I just find very interesting. We are going to move on to SCP-1048. This is a cool one. Object class was marked as safe, but has been reclassified as Keter. SCP-1048 is currently free to roam Site-24, as it poses no threat and has been observed to greatly improve the morale of personnel that interact with it. This is all being crossed out. The whereabouts of SCP-1048 are currently unknown, though it is still believed to be somewhere in Site-24. This stuff isn't crossed out. This is the amendum. Subject is to be secured for containment, but any creation of SCP-1048s should be destroyed on site, unless further evidence warrants less extreme actions. No teddy bears are to be allowed in Site-24 to prevent any confusion or mistaken identity. Any object that resembles a teddy bear is to be reported to the security team immediately. What's this all about then? Here's the description. SCP-1048 is a small teddy bear, approximately 33 centimeters in height. Through testing, composition of the subject revealed no unusual qualities that make it discernible from a non-sapient teddy bear. Wow. Subject is capable of moving of its own accord and can communicate through a small range of gestures. The subject regularly shows affection to individuals in ways found endearing by most people. Affection is usually given in the form of a hug to the lower leg, but subject has also been observed dancing, jumping in place, and in 2 separate events, it has even drawn childlike pictures for janitorial staff. All Foundation personnel that have interacted with the subject have been found to respond positively to its affections, even D-class with normally sociopathic tendencies. Attempts at direct communication with SCP-1048 have not been considered successful, though it is capable of simple gestures to indicate a yes or no answer. It will often not react to lines of questioning concerning its nature or where it originated from. It is not known if this is because SCP-1048 simply does not know the answers, or because it does not want to answer. Though capable of drawing pictures, it has not used its art as a form of communication beyond showing affection, even when encouraged to do so. The more anomalous behavior of SCP-1048 was not observed until approximately 7 months after it was originally secured. It is hypothesized that the subject is able to construct crude replicas of itself using various materials by a process that is yet to be observed directly by Foundation staff. Dr. Carver has suggested that SCP-1048 uses its endearing qualities to lull those around it into a false sense of security, allowing it to collect materials to produce these creations. Currently, there are 3 known creations of SCP-1048, designated SCP-1048-A, 1048-B, and 1048-C. The nature of these creations has been in stark contrast to SCP-1048's general behavior, as they have all exhibited extreme violence towards humans. We're going to read about A through C now. SCP-1048-A. On date expunged, SCP-1048-A was discovered wandering Site-24, accompanied by SCP-1048. Subject resembles a teddy bear similar in size and shape to SCP-1048, but is made entirely out of human ears. Witnesses interviewed reported that it appeared SCP-1048 was giving a tour of Site-24 to SCP-1048-A. Dr. Carver was called to the scene along with a security team. The security team arrived first and attempted to contain 1048-A. Subject emitted a high-pitched shriek that inflicted intense pain in the eyes and ears of everyone in a 10-meter radius. Ear-like growths immediately began growing on those within 5 meters of the subject, covering their bodies in less than 20 seconds. Every person afflicted with the symptom died within 3 minutes, resulting in the death of data-expunged personnel, including the entire security team. Autopsies revealed that the cause of death to be asphyxiation caused by an abundance of ear-like growths manifesting in the mouths and trachea of all victims. SCP-1048 and 1048-A fled the scene before Dr. Carver arrived and have not been contained since the incident, though sightings of both have been reported on multiple occasions. Shortly after this incident occurred, a researcher was discovered missing an ear. According to him, it was removed through unknown means while he was sleeping. No other victims of ear removal were found, so it is unclear if SCP-1048 obtained more ears from another source or if it is capable of duplicating objects or materials. There is B and there is C, but I'm not going to bother with those. That gives us a clear enough picture. We've got a few more. SCP-049. This is one of the more popular ones. This object class is Euclid, so middle of the road. We're not going to go through the containment procedures here, we're just going to go straight into the description. SCP-049 is a humanoid entity, roughly 1.9 meters in height, which bears the resemblance of a medieval plague doctor. While SCP-049 appears to be wearing thick robes and a ceramic mask indicative of that profession, the garments instead seem to have grown out of SCP-049's body over time, and are now nearly indistinguishable from whatever form is beneath them. X-rays indicate that despite this, SCP-049 does have a humanoid skeletal structure beneath its outer layer. 049 is capable of speech in a variety of languages, though tends to prefer English or medieval French. 049 is generally cordial and cooperative with Foundation staff. It can become especially irritated or at times outright aggressive if it feels that it is in the presence of what it calls the pestilence. Although the exact nature of this pestilence is currently unknown to Foundation researchers, it does seem to be an issue of immense concern to SCP-049. 049 will become hostile with individuals it sees as being affected by the pestilence, often having to be restrained should it encounter such. If left unchecked, 049 will generally attempt to kill any such individual. 049 generally attempts to kill... Oh my god, I just completely fucked that up. SCP-049 is capable of causing all biological functions of an organism to cease through direct skin contact. How this occurs is currently unknown, and autopsies of SCP-049's victims have invariably been inconclusive. 049 has expressed frustration or remorse after these killings, indicating that they have done little to kill the pestilence, though we'll usually seek to then perform a crude surgery on the corpse, causing the implements contained within the Black Doctor's bag it carries on its person at all times. That sentence doesn't make any sense. While these surgeries are not always successful, they often result in the creation of instances of SCP-049-2. SCP-049-2 instances are reanimated corpses that have been operated on by 049. These instances do not seem to retain any of their prior memories or mental functions, having only basic motor skills and response mechanisms. While these instances are generally inactive, moving very little, and in generally ambulatory fashion, they can become extremely aggressive if provoked or if directed by 049. 049-2 instances express active biological functions, though these are vastly different from currently understood human physiology. Despite these alterations, 049 often remarks that the subjects have been, quote, cured. A plague doctor. I fucking love this one. A lot of people love that one. Alrighty. We have... I'm wondering if should do one or two more. We'll see what it's like after this. SCP-035. Object Class, Keter. Once again, we're going to skip the special containment procedures. Not as interesting for this one. SCP-035 appears to be a white porcelain comedy mask, although at times it will change to tragedy. In these events, all existing visual records such as photographs, video footage, even illustrations of 035 automatically change to reflect its new appearance. A highly corrosive and degenerative vicious liquid constantly seeps from the eye and mouth holes of 035. Anything coming into contact with this substance slowly decays over a period of time, depending on the material, until it has decayed completely into a pool of original contaminants. Okay. Glass seems to react the slowest to the effects of the item, hence the construction of choice of its immediate container, so it's containing glass. It takes like 3 paragraphs to describe that, so we were just skipping over it. Living organisms that come into contact with the substance react much the same way, with no chance of recovery. Origin of the liquid is unknown. Liquid is only visible from the front and does not emerge or is even visible from the other side. Subjects within 1.5 to 2 meters of 035 or in visual contact with it experience a strong urge to put it on. When 035 is placed on the face of an individual, an alternate brainwave pattern from 035 overlaps that of the original host, effectively snuffing it out and causing brain death to the subject. Subject then claims to be the consciousness contained within 035. The bodies of possessed subjects decay at a highly accelerated rate, eventually becoming little more than mummified corpses. Nevertheless, 035 has demonstrated the ability to remain in cognitive control of a body experiencing severe structural damage, even if the subject's body literally decays to the point where motion is not mechanically possible. No effect is found to be had when placed on the face of an animal. Conversations with 035 have proven to be informative. Researchers have learned various details about other SCP subjects and history in general, as 035 claims to have been at many momentous events. 035 displays a highly intelligent and charismatic personality, being both amiable and flattering to all those who speak with it. 035 is scored in the 99th percentile of all intelligence and aptitude tests administered to it, and appears to have photographic memory. However, psychological analysis has discovered 035 to possess a highly manipulative nature capable of forcing sudden and profound changes to the interviewer's psychological state. 035 has proven to be highly sadistic, prompting some to commit suicide and transforming others into near mindless servants with linguistic persuasion alone. 035 has stated that it has immediate knowledge of the workings of the human mind and implied that it could change anyone's views if given enough time. So there's additional information here we're not going to get into, but fucking creepy sentient mask. Get the hell out of here. That scares the shit out of me. Okay, last one. This is SCP-096, also known as the Shy Guy. Object class, Euclid, right in the middle. Containment procedures, again, we're just gonna skip over those and get to the description. SCP-096 is a humanoid creature measuring approximately 2.38 meters in height. Subject shows very little muscle mass, with preliminary analysis of body mass suggesting mild malnutrition. Arms are grossly out of proportion with the rest of the subject's body, with an approximate length of 1.5 meters each. Skin is mostly devoid of pigmentation with no sign of any body hair. 096's jaw can open to 4 times the norm of an average human. Other facial features remain similar to an average human, with the exception of the eyes, which are also devoid of pigmentation. It is not yet known whether 096 is blind or not. It shows no signs of any higher brain functions and is not considered to be sapient. 096 is normally extremely docile, with pressure sensors inside its cell indicating it spends most of its day pacing by the eastern wall. However, when someone views 096's face, whether it be directly, via video recording, or even a photograph, it will enter a stage of considerable emotional distress. 096 will cover its face with its hands and begin screaming, crying, and babbling incoherently. Approximately 1 or 2 minutes after the first viewing, 096 will begin running to the person who viewed its face, who will from this point on be referred to SCP-096. I'm sorry, my page just refreshed for some reason. Documented speeds have varied from 35 kilometers per hour to data expunged kilometers per hour, and seem to depend on distance from SCP-096-1. At this point, no known material or method can impede 096's progress. The actual position of 096-1 does not seem to affect 096's response. It seems to have an innate sense of 096-1's location. Upon arriving at 096-1's location, 096 will proceed to kill and data expunged 096-1. 100% of cases have left no traces of 096-1. 096 will then sit down for several minutes before regaining its composure and becoming docile once again. It will then attempt to make its way back to its natural habitat, which is data expunged. Due to the possibility of a mass chain reaction, including breach of Foundation secrecy and large civilian loss of life, retrieval of subject should be considered alpha priority. And that will be the last one for the day. I hope that you enjoy them. The SCP Foundation is full of so many interesting pieces of writing, so much creativity. This is barely scratching upon the surface. I would highly recommend further reading. Again, scpwiki.com. Make yourself a cuppa, sit down, dim the lights, and just read long into the night. Really fucking great. I will say goodbye to you now, but after we play Floating Roach, as I understand, a certain samurai has something to say. But Cassidy shall see you next week, friends. Bye.
We are dead! So with whom? The people or the people is as you never seen.
こんにちは。 This samurai-sama. I now read samurai-sama's SCP. This SCP 3N541NT, also known as SCP Treated, Special Containment Procedure. SCP Treated is to be kept in procrastinated podcast and must not be near any samurai scroll at any time for any reason. Demand SCP Treated return samurai scroll once every week at least. Description: SCP Treated mostly made of soy. It have black hair with a stupid pink top and fringe. Look like a cherry ripe chocolate bar. It known for liberal political and cunning style of samurai scroll, and pose great threat to all mankind with a spread of a circumcision agenda. SCP Treated often interact with a human and behave timid, weak-willed, and soft-spoken, but really evil incarnate. No compassion in eyes, constantly plot to betray every single one. If encounter SCP Treated, most likely it pose as a humble comic artist, most likely to say, "My name Benno Sento-san." This illusion spell cannot be broken by your magical phrase. Fuck you, Benno Sento-san. Return samurai scroll. Okay. Until next time. Sayonara.